about 78 million people born between 1940 and 1960. We're going to talk about Social Security and Medicare. The Social Security crisis we're having is based off of the senior boom, and it's because we have a longer life expectancy now. And before we started the presentation, Kayla was talking about how we prolong life. There's people over 65 getting like 3 or 4 heart transplants, and
using Medicare to pay for that.
It's just a lot of money going into something, and if it's your time, kind of
Let it be your time.
let it be your time. You don't need to stay more than you should. The birth rate's at a record low now. People are not having 13 kids as they were. And the baby boom is the result of it. People are having like 2 or 4 kids now. Well, not even 4. 1 or 2. And the median age is rising. That's the, as you can guess, the middle age of the population. In 1970, it was 28, and now it's 37 and rising. Okay, so these are some of the costs of the elderly. We spend about $800 billion in Social Security a year now, and I should probably tell you what Social Security is. It's basically like a pension system like they were talking about. It's for people over the age of 65 as a retirement plan. And they also use Medicare, which is solely for the elderly. We're spending about $600 billion a year on that. And Medicaid is similar to Medicare, but it's basically just for the poor and people over 65. About a third of the $350 billion annual budget goes to them. And it's estimated in 15 years that 40% of all federal spending will go to the elderly. And this money is coming from us, the college-age students. The baby boomers will retire in 2020, and it's estimated that 1 working couple will have to support a retiree. When the pension system was started, it was usually about 9 workers that would go to paying for 1 retiree, but now it's down to just 2. And we're college age. We shouldn't have to worry what we're going to do for our retirement. We should be worrying about getting good grades so we can get to that.
I like that.
Yeah. This is due to a political economy with entitlement programs. An entitlement program is basically a government program that promises certain benefits to a specific part of the population, which is what Social Security is, Medicare, Medicaid. And the elderly, they're going to speak out about wanting their benefits. They have the incentive for it. And since they're older, they don't have as many demands on their time. So they're more likely to get out to the ballot box and show that they want their benefits. In order to fix this, we could trim benefits and not raise taxes. And I did some research. Chile actually had a problem like us, except theirs was more advanced than ours, and they actually fixed it where they it's like 15% of their taxes now, I believe.
I'm not sure of the numbers, but what they did is they changed the system, so over time it completely converted into a private pension system. So it wasn't so heavy on the taxpayers to support Social Security.
Yeah, they had an option to purchase an annuity to provide the retiree with lifetime benefits, or do programmed withdrawals like they spoke about yesterday, or immediate annuity with a portion of the funds. now and program withdrawals for the rest. But it is very obvious that if we don't do something, it's going to be disastrous. There will be a heavy burden on us, and there will be social tensions because younger people don't want to really finance the older people, and unbearable economic cost on us. Okay, do the discussion questions.
Well, I remember, like they had said in, I think it was the first article, they had talked about a system of adjusting elements. I think it's called, wage indexing. And so it's like where, you adjust the benefits that someone's getting based off of like their wage and like inflation, because that's where a lot of the problem was, is that they set up these like basic benefits that have caused a problem for us with like inflation and increased wages. So like if they set up the wage indexing, then like with inflation and with salary increases, that could then determine like how much benefits you're getting, to what extent you're getting them, and then that would relieve some of the pressure and not have to have us increase taxes so much.
Yeah, I agree with that, but we just have to get people to do it. It would take a while.
It's the thing with instant gratification. It would take time to build. The taxes would eventually catch up with the benefits, but it says around 2055.
Yeah, they like, the thing is like, it's hard for us, because that was the one thing, like I agree with it, that it has to get worse before it gets better, but that's not necessarily what the rest of the United States is going to agree with. If you say, well, we're going to have a 4% tax increase for the immediate time frame, but 20 years in the future, it will be better, like, we're just like, what, 4%? I don't want that. So, in this case, like, if it were up to me, we live in a democracy, which is why like sometimes it's not so great, but if it were up to me, I'd just be like, listen everybody, it's 4%, just gonna have to deal with it for the time being, and we'll increase that, because that way you're still getting the benefits, because the other downside is that you could put it solely on taxpayers, and then you would have to slash benefits in the future, not do it accordingly.
Do you mean like 4% on income tax, or like 4% on what tax are you talking about?
Payroll tax.
I think, I believe it was payroll tax.
Okay. I don't think taxing would be a good idea. I think they should I don't know, like you're already taxing so much, and then you're already taxed based off of like how much you make. So like if you make more, then like, you know, obviously you're paying more in taxes. So if you increase it even further, like I don't think that's a good idea. I think if people have like children or whatever they have that would take care of them, I think they should. And I think that this like Social Security or pension at all should only be for like people who are not gonna have anything once they quit working. You know what I'm saying?
And one of the articles, I'm not certain which one, made the comment that it would be more beneficial to trim the benefits rather than raise the taxes.
That's what I mean.
And I think in the book it said like in Japan, they don't provide heart transplants for people over like 65 or something like that.
Right.
And when you think about it, people don't want to trim benefits for the elderly because, you can't not deny them health care and stuff like that. But if you're old and you're sick anyway, and you're only going to get maybe 10, 15 years at most out of another heart transplant, is it really...
I would
just
rather
wasted
like,
a heart.
if I'm 67 and I need a heart transplant, but it could go to a 10-year-old, like, I'm sorry, but...
Yeah, well, I think heart transplant is one thing, because that's a big thing, and you could say you're wasting an organ on someone who's not going to use it as long as someone else, but I think you can go too far down that slope. I know, like, my grandfather has an aneurysm, and I'm biased because I really want my grandfather to live as long as he can live, but it's a relatively simple surgery that he lives in Canada and they won't give it to him because he's too old, and he's like he found out he had an aneurysm when he was 60, and I don't think that's very old. They gave him 3 years to live, and he's lived longer than that, but he could die any day, and that's something where I feel like they've gone too far in saying we're not going to provide you with.
Because I don't want to be that awful person that's like, oh, you're old, you don't deserve
You
this.
have to seriously consider where's the
Yeah.
line.
And you have to
I
weigh, like, if he has the surgery and he could, like, everything else is healthy and he could live for a lot longer, then he deserves that surgery. But let's say somebody who's, like, smoked their whole life and is about to die of lung cancer, like, if your health doesn't,
Yeah, I just think it is a slippery slope.
yeah,
Well, 'cause it's
it's
like-
hard to make a judgment call
It's the line between like humanity and
in economy.
economy.
It's dancing across that line there where somebody has to be the kind of the equalizer of the thing, and you kind of have to make a judgment call on somebody's life, and it kind of goes back to what I've said before. I really don't want to be the person who has to make the decision to deny or like give the treatment or what that they need to survive, because this person's old and it's not like they're going to live much longer anyway in one spectrum if you being very callous about it. I realize that, and then you got this other person who's like you said, like they smoked their whole life, and it's like, well, they had it they had it coming to them or something. Then you got a young person. I mean, you kind of have to levy all that, and you would think that the obvious answer would be to give to the young person because they might live longer than either this person or this person. But at the same time, this person has a life and that person has a life too, and you're basically weighing whose life is more important, and that's a very hard decision to make.
Like she said, everyone is going to be biased because you can say, well, if somebody smoked cigarettes their whole life, they don't deserve it. But if that person was your mother, you're going to be not feeling that way. So I think it's very hard to base it just solely off of age, because everyone is going to care about their mom or their grandpa, and no one wants to be that person. Like she said, she wants her grandpa to live. I mean, the people in the healthcare place might not care about that, but she does. So I think it's like you can't say just because someone's lifestyle or their age affects what they should get, because I mean, I would be upset if somebody said your mom's old so she doesn't deserve this. Like,
Well, then I think you should have to pay for it. Like, I'm not trying to be.
no, I understand. Like, I don't believe everybody else should pay for somebody's like medical attention. I'm just saying, like, I would be upset if it was my mom.
Yeah.
I agree with what you just said. Like, if they want well, I've been raising my hand too.
He's been raised for like a solid 10 minutes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What a gentleman.
Go ahead.
Alright, so I was just gonna say, is that like earlier you said that like it's not our kind of like our problem, and in a way I see that, but I'm kind of, I guess my past and where like as a wanting to be a preacher, I would have to disagree with that. Like those people are the people that raised us. They're the people that made us who we are today. And to say, you know, oh, they're over the age of 65, you know, I think it's time to just let them go, kind of thing. Like, I mean, I don't.
See, it sounds awful when you say it.
Well, no, I mean, that's what you guys were. I mean, but I'm just saying is like, sure, and you know, you have the numbers, and when you're reading about this, yes, there's definitely an economic toll when you do this, but you know, we live in America where it says like you're allowed to live as freely and live as long as you can and stuff. So like, I'm not saying if someone 120 who's, you know, been through 45 heart surgeries, but I am saying that like everyone should have the equal amount to, you know, to live. And the thing is if you generalize that and say, you know, oh, they're older people. Well, actually, they're people's grandparents, your mom, you know, your great granddad, and you kind of take the, I guess, humanitarian point of view. it makes it an even more difficult situation. Is how do we cut taxes on us so we can bear the toll, but yet not cut their benefits too much so that they can't live and they can't have that support.
But do we have to be ethical in economics though? Like,
Okay,
does
yeah,
it-
I want to add something to this discussion here because actually we're talking about two issues. And I think one of the issues is what you guys focus on now in the discussion is the higher cost of the taking care of elderly. So that's what we're focusing on. But there is another thing going on, okay? The other thing going on is, okay, $1 spent on elderly compared to the dollar spent on the younger folks. So how do we compare what this $1 generates in these two scenarios? And that is the root of this rationale. Okay, so when we say we want to trim the benefit, yes, part of the reason because it's higher cost of taking care of elderly, but the main reason is this marginal, we call it, it's a marginal benefit of $1 generated in two scenarios. So I want you to think about it. If we spend $1 on younger, or not younger, save $1 on working class, and by paying less $1 tax, compared to we trim $1 and the benefit of elderly. So what is the difference of this marginal impact? You guys know what I'm asking, right?
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm asking?
What?
It's that like $1 spent on the younger population is in the eyes of the economy a better dollar spent than spending it on the elderly.
Or is it that it's less of an impact for the younger?
Because when you spend it on the
Generation
younger, you're essentially putting that money back into your
To the
economy.
economy,
Yeah.
to the society.
So, but when you spend it on the elderly, like in terms of the economy, that money is somewhat wasted.
So actually, we're talking about the multiplier effect of that dollar. Okay, so if $1, spent in the working class, that dollar will be multiplied several times.
Mhm.
But if this dollar is spent on the elderly, it will multiply, but much less. I think that's the rationale. We're not saying this is right or wrong. We're just explaining the rationale. That's the rationale behind why we want to, why they say this should trim the benefit in the elderly. Because for the if we just talk about boost the economy, yes, we should trim the benefit. That's the reason. Yeah.
how does the dollar that you spend on the elderly, how does that multiply? Like at all? How does it multiply?
Well, we say elderly they do contribute to the society, right? If we assume that elderly do not contribute to society, I think that's a very wrong argument. Elderly do contribute. Yes, they're 70 years old, but they still, I know a lot of 70 years old people and working like crazy. They still, they do volunteers work. So, if they live longer, because also they have years of experience to contribute, the younger folks, when the young people do not have. So, if they live a better life, they live longer, they will contribute to society. So, and their well-being, and it's beneficial for the society. It's just we need to compare the marginal benefit of this dollar. That's the thing. We're not saying, okay, the elderly is usually, no, that's not what we're saying. We're just saying marginal benefit that dollar spent on the elderly is more likely to be smaller than the marginal impact this dollar spent on the working class young. Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with the whole system is that, like, in the 80 years that we've had it, it's barely changed, and we have changed a lot. So I think if you adjust the system according to where we are now as a country, I think that would help. And granted, the second thing is a little late for that, but I think we just should have, like, you saw, like, after the war, like, it was understood everyone's having babies because you just got back from the war. So you would think that we would understand as a country that we should have not decrease the amount of babies we're having because now we don't have anyone to support this boom. So I know it's like different to think about seeing as we're America, but I was thinking about it in terms of like the like China, how they have a cap per se on how many kids they can have, and if you want to have more kids, then you pay or you have to get licenses or whatever. I know it's like weird to think about, but what if the US had said, hey, if you have more kids, like we'll help you out because you're helping us out in the future. But again, it's a little late for that.
Well, that is what they do, isn't it? Like, in a way, like, if the more kids you have, like, the more money that you're having to spend or whatever. And, like, if you can't afford them, then there are government programs for that, right? You see where I'm going? Like, food stamps or something?
But it's not like I see how that could be an incentive, but like no one wants to start out poor. So like I'm saying, like right now we're having way less children than we were then, and because of that we have way less people to support it. So if back when the government saw like, oh, we're gonna have this baby boom, if they were thinking towards the future, they would have been like, hey, like if you want to have like 1 or 2 more kids per household, we might give you a stipend or a credit or a tax break because that's going to help us down the line. But they weren't thinking of it.
Just want to add something, in today's NPR news, the China is thinking about allow 2 children in the family.
Yeah, I heard
You
about
heard
that.
about that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just something that I heard, and I think it's a lie, but I'm going to ask you anyway. But ain't there some sort of like horrible like punishment if like, or at least there used to be in China if they had more than 2 kids? Like somebody told me.
Horrible punishment. Fine.
Fine.
Somebody told me.
Fine. You
back
just have
along-
to pay.
Yeah.
If government fine.
Yeah, that shop.
Yeah,
Well, that-
because if you find out that you're having more children than the government's going to say you have, then, well, we'll take some money from you.
Yeah, the wealthy
the only
people
reason I was asking because somebody told me, I don't remember who told me, this was back a long time ago, that there was a part in like China's history that like if you had more than the amount of kids that you either had to kill one or give it away.
No.
I'm not thinking that.
I learned that. I learned that.
I'm just making sure that wasn't true.
No, I wasn't. I
No,
don't think
that's
it's true.
It's like a horror story.
I know, that's what I was saying.
If I'm not mistaken, in the U.S., if you have a certain number of children, you become tax exempt. So, because my grandpa was joking around with me the other day, and he was like, "Well, if you have 4 kids, you don't have to pay taxes."
Well, you get like tax deductions for everyone.
Because those
so
are dependents.
if you have dependents.
Yeah, but if you have 4, they usually make you tax exempt.
No, I mean
My mom should just
I
know
just-
more.
you don't have to pay very many money. So
I don't think you're taxed.
in my family, there's 5 kids, and so but we're starting to not be dependent.
Yeah,
and so
because
my
when you
dad's
turn
losing-
17,
yeah.
you drop off. Like my mom says, that's why she had another baby so
well,
old.
it's
but
not, but it's not really tax exempt. It's just your deductions add up enough so you don't end up.
so you end up coming out in the well, because I know when you have a baby, you get a lot of money for a tax like return. So at that certain age, they are off your taxes, but you can still claim them as a dependent. Like you don't get money for it, but you can claim.
In school, you can still claim them as.
I'm pretty sure you can, because my mom claims me, and that's why I can't claim myself on my FAFSA. But like,
Oh, it depends on whether. Yeah, it depends on how it works. Like if I do my own taxes, then my dad can't claim me, and so then. It's like,
yeah, but I do my own taxes, but my mom still claims me. Like I worked
Like you don't claim yourself.
You have to mark.
He doesn't like he. I'm not his dependent.
So you
So-
see, you can still claim them as a dependent. You just don't get as much because my mom still claims me and says that I just have to mark on my taxes that somebody claimed me.
Yeah, but you do get reward. Like there is a tax reward for having kids.
Yeah, because my mom had another one else.
Just
And
make it
also-
more so that you have more kids.
And also, like I agree with you that like people are not having as many kids, but there are people out there who have like a lot of kids and like take advantage of the government, like
19.
like the food stamps and like
But like if you
housing.
So that's not so like in that case, like we're shelling out as a country more for you because you're having more kids. I'm saying like if you can support support more kids. Like, if I'm a millionaire and I've got one kid, like,
Oh, if you can support.
can I say, like, as a nation, like,
Yeah,
As
but
a
I mean,
nation,
somebody.
oh, we'll give you a break on a break on your taxes if you have like one or two more, considering that you could support one or two.
But
more.
that wouldn't be very fair because some people can't have children, like, are physically unable to have children. So think about the millionaire who, like, would die to have a baby, but she can't. And then you have people who are spitting out babies to get tax returns. Like, that is.
Well, that's where like adoption comes in, because I mean, like I'm adopted. My parents, they still get like tax
Yeah, I mean,
deductions
and if you foster, you get tax.
and you also get like
deduction.
government funding, some government funding for fostering too.
Okay, let's get back to the.
Okay,
Okay,
so
we're not talking about babies.
I wanted to. What kind of shocked me was they were talking about the wealth of the elderly. I think somewhere it's
the
a
chart,
yeah,
how
yeah,
it
yeah.
increased.
Yeah. And then it talked about how when they put into effect I think it was the prescriptions, like paid prescriptions, how there were people who were paying for their own insurance, like elderly people who were paying for their own insurance, for prescription insurance or whatever it was, and they actually, that stopped them from being allowed to buy their own, and so then they had to take the government's money, even though they didn't need to. So I think a bigger problem is we're giving money to elderly people who are relatively wealthy and are able to pay for their own benefits. And
So
not
how-
all their own benefits,
Good,
but
that's very good point, Sarah. So how do we phrase that in economic terms?
Wouldn't we just look at, wouldn't we just look at their, like their income to see how, much money that they're making and kinda adjust
It's just
their
the max.
benefits?
So how do we phrase it in the economic terms, using economic terms,
Compare the,
using economic language?
would we look at their,
Inefficient allocation of the resources. And also there's a problem, it's called moral hazard problem there. Okay, what is moral hazard? Have you guys, I remember I mentioned this term here, moral hazard problem. Okay, moral hazard problem, I'll give you an example here. Okay, I told you guys when I worked in Michigan, my health insurance is great. You know, they paid everything. You know, they even pay me a free 30 free chiropractic visit, you know, per year. Okay, and I discovered one chiropractic clinic offers massage, you know, in addition to the adjustment. So, you know, I was having some problem with my neck, so I was having those chiropractic treatment. Then I discovered they offer the massage. So, I mean, the calendar year is from July 1st to June 30th. So if you did not use this 30, you know, and treatment, then it will be gone, you know, by the end of year. So by, I think by sometime in May, I still have like 10 massage, you know, treatment that I have not used. So guess what? You know, I went ahead, you know, have two massage every week to utilize that. Okay, what does this tell you? This is totally inefficient allocation of the resources because the doctor could use the time and resource on the people who really need. But this is moral hazard issue because since I don't have to pay out of my own pocket, I don't care. You see? So when you have a mechanism that is, you know, is inefficient user, you know, resources basically are wasted. You know, so, and this issue here, the elderly have more benefit than really need. It is a moral hazard issue because if they have it and they're going to use it, whether they really need it or not. Yeah, so that is wasted resources. That's what it boils down to. You know, we don't want to have resources that wasted. It's not that we don't care about elders. We want to provide exactly what they need, not more. Yeah.
It talks about like in the book how like the elderly people would like live with like try to live more luxury than their last paycheck even took. So they would like live off the government's money instead of just their own like social security money, because like they didn't like think about how expensive living would be. They make their living more expensive than it needs to be, and so that's also wasting money.
And my friend is 68 years old, and he just had this cataract surgery in his eyes. He told me he's on Medicare. Okay, he told me how good Medicare is. He said this procedure he did in Duke cost him $25,000. Do you know how much he paid out of his pocket after Medicare? $200. That's how much Medicare paid for that procedure. Yeah, and because that Medicare is paying for it, and a lot of hospital is raising the cost of it. So there's a chain reaction, in the mechanism. So why the hospital cost is so high, and that is part of the reason. Yeah.
Isn't that money or whatever just going back, kind of not as much, but like back into the economy as well?
Which money?
Like the money that Medicare puts into like different procedures and stuff like that for older people.
The money that is come from government, so government pay the hospital.
Right, but I don't know. Because don't they pay the doctors as well? Like
yes.
That money pays the doctors.
Yes. So here, you're seeing that's why doctor, earn a lot of money. But then another thing is look at the doctor's insurance. A surgeon, his insurance is crazy. And that's what I'm saying. It's there's a chain reaction. And
They just keep raising the
it's
rate.
right, keep raising. Yeah.
One time I went to the doctor or the hospital because I thought I had a concussion, and my copay I was there for like 20 minutes and it was like $250. So like if you're able to pay, they make you pay more so that you can so the people with Medicare, we pay for their Medicares and stuff pretty much. If you're willing, able to pay, you pay extra pretty much for them. So when they go, they can get visits or whatever.
I see that.
They also have like a deductible, like if you don't reach your deductible, which is sometimes impossible. Like I think my mom has like a $3,000 or $5,000 deductible, and unless somebody got like a major surgery, she would never use that. So every time she has to pay like an outrageous amount for it. So that's
The doctor even asked, are you able to pay your copay today? They asked if we were if we had the money to pay for it. We could have said no and just walked out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I read that part, we are paying for the elderly, Medicare, and I really feel it myself. I really feel it because even though I have state employee health insurance, one time I went to the emergency room. It just, I fainted, and due to dehydration. So, and the ambulance took me to the hospital, just have a checkup. They just put some, water in my blood. It's basically I got out of hospital within an hour. But after the insurance paid for it, I paid out of my own pocket $1,500.
Yeah, the
for that.
ambulance, right?
It's not ambulance. Ambulance was free. It's hospital charged me $1,500.
See, normally the ambulance ride is horrible.
Yeah, because I live in an area the ambulance is totally free. So it's just hospital cost $1,500 for that 1 hour of service. There's even no medicine involved. So we are paying for the others.
Yeah. My sister had was diagnosed with a serious blood disorder, and she went to so she was pre-diagnosed, so they knew she had it. She went to the hospital, and they took x-rays because there can be complications. They took x-rays and they said, well, you don't have the complications, just take some Tylenol. And we got the bill, and we didn't have insurance at the time, and the bill was outrageous. So my dad went through, and they had charged us for the highest level of emergency, so you're bleeding out on the floor type of emergency. When she actually went in, when we knew what she had, and we just said, can you do x-rays on her? And they all this stuff. And so he went through the Medicare, what Medicare would have paid if we could have gotten it, and he said, okay, Medicare would have paid this much, so this is how much I'm going to pay for this is how much I'm going to pay for this. And it was the bill was significantly lower, and he called them and said, look, I'm going to pay what Medicare will pay for this, but I'm not going to pay what you think I can pay, because I can't. You're overcharging me.
Yeah. That's my dad had his surgery, and every time a doctor came in, it was hundreds of dollars just for the doctor came in for 5 minutes, but that was a cost. It was $1,000 every doctor visit, and they were only in the room for a minute. It was ridiculous.
I think a big problem of it is that the population, like, so the baby boomers that are getting older now, they now have, like, bigger complication. Sorry. Okay. They now have bigger complications, like diabetes wasn't as big as a problem, like, even 30 years ago, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So, like, for example, my grandma has diabetes. Because of her diabetes, she's legally blind, and she had to have open heart surgery. By the time she got out of the hospital, so this is like a year and a half, she was in and out of the hospital. By the time she got out, it was like over $400,000. And, I mean, she didn't have to pay for any of it because she's on Medicaid and she's on Social Security disability because of, whatever. And so, I mean, like, I think that's also why the amount is growing. So not only do you have this bigger population, you also have this bigger population with much more, like, health issues that weren't as big of a problem 30, 40 years ago.
And I got a question to ask. How come the economists did not factor the baby boom generation in to the equation back all this time ago when it all got started? Why didn't they start trying to get ahead of it before the problem hit?
Well, I think one of the biggest reasons is because medicine wasn't that advanced in like the 30s and 40s, like and even 50s, like when it happened. So you couldn't really anticipate so many people living so long. Like we've had huge advances just in like the last 30, 40 years.
Because like they said that like this system was put into place to be an insurance because you're assuming they're not going to live as long, so when they do go out, this is going to be the insurance and then they're going to die. But you don't factor in them living to the rate that they're living or them accumulating the cost that they're accumulating.
Well, what I'm saying though is like, well, I realized this when they put it in place, times were different, but when the baby boom generation hit and all these babies were getting born, why didn't some economists step back and, oh my goodness, in a couple of years we're gonna have a serious problem?
Well, I don't think they like recognized it like while it was happening.
Yeah, they anticipated the birth rate to stay.
One of the articles addressed that question,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I was a little bit confused by the article because it said when they created it in the Great Depression, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it said that it's actually grown at the rate that they designed it to. So we talk about how, like, it's gotten too big, it was paying for too much, but they actually, what I understood is they designed it to grow like this.
But there was a debate between two systems. Is using wage index system and also the price index system. Do you guys remember that? But there was debate, and I think some economists, some of the on the council advisor, somebody and recommended using the price index system, but that was not adopted eventually. Eventually
It took
was
like 40
you.
years, yeah.
Huh?
It took like 40 years for them to actually adopt it.
Yeah, it says that they chose it in it says either 1977 or 1983. That's a big age. That's a big year gap. And it says that it and it added to the rise of the normal retirement age. That was acted. Okay, but they said that's when they chose it. No, it says had they had chosen it.
But because they didn't choose it, now you have to do the wage index. And no one wants to do the wage index. But you're better off doing that versus the higher tax rates.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think what it's saying is it's better to use the price index than the wage index. Because the price index is going only take into account of the inflation, but the wage index you take into account of not only inflation but also the increase of the wage rate. So you have this double. So if you use a formula, use that formula to calculate benefit for the elderly is much higher if you use wage indexed. I think that's what that article,
Yeah, well, because the pricing index, that means that you're so you're calculating the benefits that retirees would get based on the inflation and based off of the salaries that they were paid.
Yeah, just
Okay.
paid, yeah.
But
But-
wage is just based off of the
No,
salary.
no, the wage is including both, include the increase of the salary and the inflation.
Mhm.
So when you take both into consideration,
Oh,
when you
you get paid
to
more.
calculate the benefit for
Yeah.
other, of course it's gonna be higher. Yeah. So they're saying, we should use the price index to only kind of trim the benefit.
I'm confused on that, cause like when I was reading it as like the wage index, it includes the inflation and it includes what you're being paid, and so therefore like.
That's right,
If-
you're right.
No, but like the way I was reading it, so like if you get hired at this price and inflation would cause your wage to be increased, they would therefore decrease your benefits.
So you're saying exactly opposite what I'm saying? So
Yes,
you're saying-
that's what I interpreted it.
The wage index is less expensive than price index?
Yes, I think that's what I was. Because like I would see that like if you're hired at this rate, and so because you're hired being paid this, these are the benefits that we're offering you. If we increase your wage, then therefore we don't need to be paying for as much of your benefits. So they would decrease the amount that they're
Let
offering
me
for
check into
benefits.
it, but good, it shows that you really read the article.
Did you have something to add?
I forgot.
I guess we can move into the discussion questions now. How do the payroll taxes levied on the earning of workers affect their decisions about how much leisure they consume?
Okay.
I mean, we kind of talked about how payroll taxes, if they do levy taxes on it, that obviously the amount of leisure is gonna have to, that's consumed, it will decrease.
Yeah.
Because there's not gonna be enough, even if it is a 4% tax, then that 4% tax is a lot, compared to your whole check, and your whole, all the payroll taxes. So there would definitely be a decrease in the leisure.
So I would consume less so that you don't tax me as much. Is that basically what you're saying? Is that so like they're gonna tax me, so isn't that tax like just flat out? So like
It's not a flat rate tax, is it?
I thought
Oh, it's,
payroll tax is different than income tax, and the way I thought it was is that the payroll tax is based off of the employer's taxes on your wages.
Yes.
Because I Googled payroll tax, like I'm not really sure what that specifically means, but if you're talking about payroll tax, and that's different from income tax. Income tax is like that flat rate that I think you're talking about.
oh, okay, so so I get it. So like the income tax, that's flat rate for everyone, but the payroll tax based on your employer can be different.
I'm not gonna
Well,
hold to that.
do individuals pay payroll taxes or do companies pay payroll taxes?
The way I thought it was either
Partly
or.
by the employer.
Yeah.
Because I know my dad owns a small business and he says payroll taxes kill him, kill his business because the business has to pay the payroll.
Payroll tax is paid partly by employer, whereas income is paid
Only
solely by employees.
Okay, so it's like
It's
each
kinda
one has to pay payroll taxes, is that it?
I
I
think
think the employer pays half, like they split it. Like the employer puts some and you put some.
See, I think the employer pays most
More,
of it.
yeah, most of it. That would make sense why.
Let's see if I can find any.
any.
Small businesses are really hard for
Yeah.
taxes.
So if you do that.
but I mean, still the amount of money you're gonna put into leisure, because you're gonna have to pay more money because the company is paying the payroll tax. You're gonna have to pay. You're not gonna receive as much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
From the company, so you would want to use less money towards
That's
leisure.
true. Okay.
That's
Also-
that's what it's for.
Also, if it takes out enough of your paycheck, you'd have to take it. You'd have to go and try to find another job to help support you and possibly your family if you have one. A good portion of our generation either has a family or is getting ready to have one, so you got to factor them in the equation too. If you if they take out even more out of your paycheck, when a good portion of our country is living paycheck to paycheck anyway, and they take even more out, they have to find another job that helps support them to basically keep afloat. They won't have time for any leisure because between working all these jobs and trying to take care of their family, they ain't got no more time.
That reminded me of a question from before. When it says working couple supports one retiree, does that mean like two working people or a two income family is
But,
supporting one retiree?
I read that it was
Well, just
3.
Or just a one income?
With
Like-
2 incomes. 2 incomes.
Okay,
So,
because one,
yeah.
okay, because one, I think a lot of families, well, not a lot of families now, but some families are still one income families. So I was wondering if, like, that confused me.
They would pay for like half of the benefits.
Okay, so one person provides half of the.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And a more
For this question, I want to stay on this question. I remember some time ago, I mentioned about the relationship between the wage rate and the number of hours you like to work. Remember when we talk about labor market?
Yeah.
And there I introduced these 2 effects. One is called income effect, the other one is called substitution effect. Anybody remember
Was
that?
that whenever you said at some point it's gonna get so high that you're gonna start working less and less?
That's right. So that it would be the income effect. So if the wage rate is really, really high, then you don't want to work very much because of the income effect. But at the beginning, you want to work more because you want to earn more money. That's substitution effect. You substitute leisure with work. So keep those concepts in mind to answer this question.
So if your payroll tax is increased, then therefore you're not getting paid as much, so you don't care how if I'm not getting paid as much, I would want to work more, but at some point it's not gonna be worth working more.
That's right. It could go into 2 directions. Depend on the individual situation.
Yes.
So if individuals really need the money, they cannot do without it. They will have to work, right? But for some individuals, they want to make some money, but they really don't have to because they have a spouse that support them. Then they will evaluate the benefit and cost of the working. If they only gonna make this much, but then have to hire a babysitter to watch their kid, then might be just stay home and watch their kid. So you will see the 2 directions of the action and behavior toward leisure. Some family will want to consume more, some will want to consume less. It depends on which effect is dominant one.
Did you have?
and to define the payroll tax more. An employer is required to take out 4.2% of an employee's paycheck, and then whatever amount that is, the employer has to match it. And then the Medicare tax is 2.9%, and you divide that equally between employee and employer.
Say it again.
So you're you split payroll tax and then you split Medicare tax.
The employer doubles the payroll tax.
Yes,
right?
like whatever 4.2% of your pay is taken out, and your employer will match that and pay the same
So
amount.
you end up paying 8.4.
And then another part of payroll is Medicare, and it's 2.9%, and you divide that equally between employees.
So payroll, you split it, but you pay half of the payroll and you pay 4.2 and your employer pays 8.4, and then Medicare.
No.
just-
You pay 4.2 and they pay 4.2.
But like 4.2% for you may be like a lot of money, but it might be like a drop in the bucket compared. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they both pay the equal amount, the employer including 4.8, right?
Yes.
Percentage-wise, okay.
Okay, we can go to the next questions. When the government taxes younger people to pay benefits to older people, how does this affect the amount of assistance that younger people might voluntarily choose to offer older people?
Younger people might be bitter to older people because they'll be like, I'm paying for your stuff, so I'm not going to volunteer to help you.
So yeah, like by taxing younger people more, you kind of create like a rift. So younger people see less incentive to volunteer or to offer certain services to older people. So
I agree with it. I feel like the young people feel like they're already helping them enough. Like if we're paying for your life, like why do we have to help you any more than that?
I personally, like, when I get a check, I just see, like, a big tax number that they took out. Like, I don't look at, like, the individual things, so I
Start looking at it.
I know. I know I should, but I'm saying, like, just because to me, it's like, well, it's gonna come out either way. So it's not really the older people's fault. It's just how it is. And I'm not gonna, like, if an older person is on the street, like, in pain or something, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'll pay for your life. Like,
No, I'm not gonna help you.
like,
Yeah, I kind of agree with what she just said. I think about it like if that was my grandparent, just because you're texting me to help him, I'm not gonna stop helping him.
I would think completely opposite. Like if they were taking money out of my check to go to the older people, I would be more inclined to go and then help the older people. Like I don't, cause like the way I think about it, if you're taking money out to help the elder population, if more of us went out and help to provide those services that they're taking the money out for, then maybe they wouldn't need to take so much out. So if more of the younger population volunteered at an elderly home or cooked or distributed food, then maybe somewhere down the line less money would be needed to take out.
You kind of feel like though they have like like I know that that's all in like practical terms, like if I could actually see my money going to them, but I don't actually see my money going to them. So I just see, well, they're provided for, so I don't have to worry about it, you know. But if they weren't provided for, well, I would probably feel guilty, and I would feel the need to help them out. But it's kind of the government taking care of them. Even if it is my money, it takes the responsibility off of me and makes it a non-urgent concern, and you know, it's easy to forget.
I personally disagree with that. I honestly don't think if the government taxes us or if they don't tax the younger people to provide for the elderly, honestly, we live in a very selfish society. And I hate saying that, but we do. And even if the elderly people weren't being taken care of, a lot of people probably still wouldn't help. Even if you know, people say, oh, I'd go volunteer. But when you actually get the chance to go volunteer, would you actually do it? Or would you just be selfish and say, oh, I could do this for myself instead?
And I think that's why, I mean, the government regulates these things because, like, they're supposed to be looking out for everybody. And obviously, if, like, individuals aren't, you know, stepping up and saying, you know, I'm going to go take time or I'm going to pay or do whatever, there has to be a regulation. So that's why the government does it. But I don't think that should be a substitute to still not go. Like, if you pay for something, don't you want to see what your money goes to? You know, and that's, like, my thing. It's, like, if I'm going to put forth, like, my money, I want to, like, go help. I want to, like, go make a difference kind of thing. Like, I don't want to just pay and be like, all right, whatever happens, happens kind of. So.
right, and like I agree with him, but like I also feel like I agree like our society is kind of selfish, but you have to be like a certain type of person to want to go to like a nursing home or like an older person's house and like help them out. Like it's like you have to have that kind of compassion for that. That's in my opinion. So.
And I remember the first class, the beginning of class, I mentioned the 3 incentives. Economic incentive is not all the incentives we have. We have moral incentive, we have social incentives, right? You know, yes, you know, economically, the answer may be people will volunteer less, will do less, but actually there's more incentive, more other incentive, moral incentive will push us to work for them, help them, and also social incentive. I do think we have, people say, this country is on capitalist ground, and, the fundamental principle is people are selfish, but I do see a lot of charitable and action and behavior going on all the time. So I do believe we have social incentive, moral incentive, and in place to help elders, no matter, how much they gain from the government. Yeah.
This next question was really interesting to me. When the government taxes younger people to pay benefits to older people, how does this affect the size of the bequests that older people are likely to leave their children or grandchildren when they die? Yeah.
So does that mean that the older people aren't using up their resources so that they will have more resources to give to their children?
Or would
In
they
basic
live a
terms.
more luxurious lifestyle and not have
Probably.
any left over?
I would, like, if I was old and the younger generation was like kicking and screaming about paying for my taxes, or even if it's just my family kicking and screaming about paying for me, like, I'd be more inclined to live it up. But then on the other side of it, if they are paying for me to live and they are paying for my medical expenses, then I have more money to go and live it up. So I think in either situation, if I'm the old person in this situation, there's less money for the younger generation.
But where are you getting this extra money from?
This is money, so like, if this is money that you would have, if you're the
Would
type
have
of person
spent on
who
your-
would have left it for your family anyway, then, and this would just have not been yours, but now like, the government's paying more for you.
Oh, so you mean like for the older people who had enough money to set aside for their family?
Yeah,
Yes.
they could have spent it on their health benefits, but they don't have to. So that
Right. But what about the people? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're not finished.
But what about the people that
What about the people that like didn't put money aside?
now
What
they
happens
have,
to them?
but so they didn't put it aside. Now, I don't know, now they would have more. So like, it wasn't set
They
aside.
don't work. And then, like, where would they get that money from?
Or they should
Like,
taxes.
So I think when we answer the questions, we always think in the term of the average, on average. Now, the individual case is different, vary from one to another. But when we answer the question, we look at the things in on average level. On average, older people will have more, based on the.
And to answer that one question, you gotta factor in the idea of them having a retirement plan. Like if they have the 401k and they start getting payments off of that, and they're also drawing benefits from Social Security and stuff like that. They'll have a little money that they can squirrel away for a rainy day or for when they pass away for their family. So that's where the money could be coming from.
I think from like the moral incentive part of like being an elder, I feel like if they know their family's paying for them and like people are paying for them, they'll make a way to leave money for them. Because their family's spending all this money on them, morally I think they'll be inclined to leave at least something to help their family out in the long run.
Yeah, I think this is another question that isn't just about economic incentive, but it's moral incentive. Like when people know that people are trying to help you out, like whether they're forced to or not, like there's something inside of someone saying, okay, you know what, like they've helped me out, they've got me through here, like it's time to repay the favor. So I think that moral incentive and social incentive is another, like, it's not all about economic incentive.
Most older people buy life insurance policies, and I think what people aren't realizing is if you have more money coming through your benefits, then you're more likely to have a nice life insurance policy. It's not just that you're keeping this money, like you're spending the money on a life insurance policy. You're not saving up $100,000. You're buying a life insurance policy. So I think the way they're thinking, like morally people are going to do that because $3 a month and whenever you die, you could leave your family $50,000. I mean, who wouldn't do that? It would just, it definitely would. People would leave more benefits to their kids if they had any. But I know a lot of people who like donate all of their stuff and don't give anything to their family. So.
That's what my parents are gonna do.
And I heard a lot of stories. I mean, it's not a very nice story, but it tells us something. You know, the parents, you know, are relatively wealthy, have a lot of, you know, leftovers, and the kids, in order to give the parents incentive to give them more higher proportion of the wealth, and they take care of them when they were, you know, in the last 10 or 12 years. So I think that is probably gives the younger folks more incentive to care about elders. I mean, that's what I observed from a lot of stories, you know, even though, you know, you can argue about, you know, the motivation, but, you know, and it's always good to have people take care of the elders, yeah.
Or if you've had, like, if your parents left money to you, like, I pay for my apartment with an insurance policy that was left to me. So in my head, I'm, like, forever grateful for that because I wouldn't have groceries without it. So in my head, I'm like, I'd definitely leave it to my kids, like, so that they could have the same thing that I had.
We'll just skip to number 6.
Okay, the few people have not talked today, I encourage you, okay? I want to give you a grade today, so speak. Okay?
Number 6. How does the promise of guaranteed Social Security and Medicare benefits affect an individual's decision to save during the years before retirement?
They probably don't feel the need to save, like, you're gonna get money anyway, so why save?
Yeah, I was gonna say about the same thing. Like, if you know you're gonna get money, like when you get your paycheck, you're just gonna spend it. So why bother saving if you know you're gonna be taken care of?
So again, let's go back to that the economic term talk about moral hazard, inefficient allocation of the resources. Yes.
Honestly, I think it depends, because if you've never had to help take care of or whatever, someone who's solely living on Social Security benefits, because it's depending on whether you've saved money, whether you have like a retirement plan in addition to Social Security benefits, it's really, really tight sometimes, like monetarily speaking. So I think people who haven't had to see that like firsthand and like see people deal with that, then I think they're less likely to save because they have this idea in their head that, oh, I'm gonna have Social Security, it's not gonna be a problem. But then people who have had to see that, and you know, they might see like, oh, well, it's not exactly going to be a walk in the park. I do need to actually work a little bit to save some of this money so it'll at least help in the tighter parts of the budget.
Elisa.
I agree with her because my grandpa is on Social Security and he is not well off at all.
Yeah.
So I definitely have the incentive to save for my retirement age.
With like my retirement, like I want to be able to, when you retire, I mean, you're still like 65 is young, like you're still pretty young and you're active. And so I'd want to be able to go out and like go on vacations. Like you can't do that just on Social Security. So like personally, I would want to save. I want to like start saving as soon as I can because I want to like be able to do what I want. I don't want to use other people's money to go on vacation. Like I want to use my own money. Like I'd feel bad using Social Security money, going out and doing all this great stuff when it's someone else is paying for it. I couldn't do that.
Well, I agree with them that like I would want to save like a lot beforehand, and like also that was why I was asking where would that other money come from in the other question, because even though you're saying older people get Social Security and retirement, whatever, like we found in the last class, retirement money, like all that is not a lot of money. Like you may be getting like what was it was like $1,000 a month. Once you pay rent, get groceries, maybe pay a car payment if you have a car, like what are you gonna do?
I'm really excited that like I get to tie this in today because I watched the presidential debate last night and it was a brief segment talking about Social Security, and Ted Cruz said that they could not change retirement right now, but gradually raise the retirement age for future generations and put away a portion of one's tax money into personal retirement accounts. How do you, does that seem like a good proposal for currently, or have you heard anything better, or what would you propose?
I feel, oh, sorry, go ahead. I feel like it's a nice idea in general, I think. I just don't think it's practical. Like, I don't think it would work. I'm not really sure why. I just don't think.
Well, what would you, I mean, would they just keep on raising and keep on raising?
Yeah, like when
you're
does it end?
85
Like,
and
do you get to
still
retire
working?
when you die? Or
I
is
think
it
they should keep raising it if people are living longer.
Yeah,
because,
that's
yeah. I mean, if you're
Because
if you're gonna
65
live to
is
90,
young. Like, you can still work. Like, I know a lot of people, like, if they think they can't live off their retirement, they keep working. Like, my grandmother and them still work because they can't live off of Social Security. They need more money. So, they
Yeah,
just
my
keep
grandma
working.
works too, so I think they should raise it till you
I
you
agree.
can't work, not until. Well, I'm old,
think
so
it's,
probably
like-
not as good. No, until you cannot work.
Physically cannot work or
So
mentally.
you're one of the people that you're like, go home.
Because like in the first article, it talked about like if you do it based solely off of retirement age, that doesn't work. Like without like I forget, like I'm still confused as to which one. But wage indexing or price indexing or whichever one, like then you still have the inflation and stuff that's increasing your benefits. So if you just do solely raising the age and raising the age and raising the age, like the deficit is still increasing. So you can't just only incorporate that one factor.
But I feel like the whole raising the age and raising the age so you physically can't work or that kind of thing. Like my dad retired at 49 from the state, and you know he physically could not work for the DOT anymore because of his knees, and he broke his back. So I mean, like what he has 3 kids. I'm in college. My brother will be in college in like 2 years. My sister's about to be in high school. Like if they keep raising the age and raising the age, how's he gonna be able to afford that if he can't physically do the labor that they would require him to do?
Well, isn't that where like disability? Yeah, isn't that where that comes in?
Well, with that, they don't really give you disability because, like, you know going in that the work's going to be very strenuous. And if you do it, it's your own fault. It's not the fault of the state.
That's what they really say.
But I know people who like are like
They tell you.
there's people that's like they're like 20% blind and they're like on 50% disability. Like there's some people that have disability that don't really need it. So like I feel like your dad should need it, but like they like I feel like they use it for some stuff that's not necessary.
Or
too.
they, you can get a check for like having bipolar disorder.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff
can get
like
disability for some of the dumbest stuff.
But at the same time, we're paying for retirement for people who could work, so that's a waste of funds too.
Yeah.
So there should be some sort of.
Yeah, there needs to be like a median.
Like my grandma's 72 and I feel like she's completely fine to work. So if she was like, well, I mean, she's 72 and she still does pretty good. I mean, like, she's fine. She's not like decrepit. But then when you get to Walmart and you have that lady who like can barely move trying to write her little pin on your thing and you just want to snatch it out of her hand, I think that's when it's gone too far. Like at some point, even though they can work, it's just not going to be efficient for them to be working.
I think that if you definitely decide to change Social Security, you can't just change one thing. You have to look deeper into disability. You have to look deeper into there has to be some background. So like because the American dream that we are supposed to, or that this country is brought up on, is to have fun, make living, prosper, everything like that. And so as a kid, we're all promised, when you get old like grandma, you can go do things. And I just think that, sure, maybe 65 is not an appropriate number anymore. Maybe it needs to be 70 or 75. But I still think there's a point where retirement needs to happen, and people need to say, okay, even if you are healthy, you've done your service, like there still should be some retirement like that you can enjoy, not just like, well, now that you can't walk anymore, have fun at retirement. I definitely think that there should be like those glory days or those golden days, where you're whatever can just like go and enjoy all this work you've put into your life and put like fixed other lives and done all this. Like there should definitely be time at the end to like still enjoy retirement.
I agree with Blaine on that, and I feel like if you're talking about how people should work until like they're just physically unhealthy and they can't do it anymore, you're looking at people more as tools than as a person.
No? Okay, alright, great. I think our discussion today is great. And okay, so we need to decide who is going to present next week. Volunteers. Again, if no volunteers, I'm going to randomly pick someone.
Have you put Chandra on the schedule for me to listen
Me and my partner's name is already down for Thursday, right?
So you guys will be doing the Thursday one.
We talked about that.
Yeah, okay, so Tuesday, who is going to do the Tuesday one?
What chapter
What chapter is Tuesday? I forgot.
That was a big one.
I think it's 24.
Okay, class, it's not this easy yet, okay, sit down. I think it's greenhouse economics. Is it?
That sounds right.
That sounds right. Greenhouse economics, so that will be the Tuesday topic.
We're doing 28. What's our topic? We're doing safety station. So if you want to get.
When do we do that? You want to do that?
We're doing safety station.
Okay. So greenhouse economics. Nobody? You know what? Nobody. Then you guys do this one. The trashman comment on Tuesday. Okay. All right. So Thursday. Kathleen. Yeah. Thursday. Okay. All right. So we'll have it for next week.
I'm probably gonna go to Moore and get my breath. Also, there's a choir concert. Concert. Choir concert.
Yes, choir concert tonight. Use the animals.
I'm gonna sing.
It's 7:30.
Yeah.